Hello, Namaskar, Ram Ram, Pranam. Thank you for joining me again in this new episode of Being the Change. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the gateway to inner peace, that is, spiritual healing. अंदरूनी शांति, मन की शांति. I'll talk about it. आज की लाइफ में जीते हुए, आगे बढ़ते हुए, ड्यू टू सेवरल रीजंस, हम अपने अंदरूनी शांति को खो चुके हैं. If I say, like, every living being, not only just human being, I'm talking about every living creature on this beautiful planet, has to endure some kind of pain or suffering throughout this lifespan. So, how can we overcome that? We'll talk about that. And in today's episode, the main theme will be about spiritual healing. In last episodes, when we were talking about the healing process, healing after tragedy or trauma, I talked about several activities or the several ways to overcome that tragic or traumatic experience. But I didn't talk much about the spiritual healing process. So today I'll talk about the spiritual healing. What do we actually mean by spiritual healing? Spiritual healing, obviously, it is connected to God, to the Almighty, to the Supreme Power, to the universe, whatever you call it. Right? We'll talk about that. Actually, in our life, most of our suffering is due less to the circumstances of our life than to our thoughts about them. मतलब most of the time in our lives, हमारी जिंदगी में जो भी हमारी सफरिंग है, जो हमारे आउटर सर्कमस्टांसेस हैं, उनकी वजह से कम होती है. एक्चुअल में वो ज्यादा सफरिंग हमारी थॉट्स की वजह से होती है. Most of the time in our lives, our suffering is due less to the circumstances than to our thoughts about that. In fact, the world is just merely the projection of our own thoughts. Right? जो भी हम सोच रहे हैं, जिस हिसाब से हम रिएक्ट कर रहे हैं अलग अलग सिचुएशन के लिए, सर्कमस्टांसेस के लिए, जो हम उसके बारे में सोच रहे हैं, वही हमारी दुनिया बन जाती है, वही हमारा एक्सपीरियंस बन जाता है. राइट? सोचिए इस बारे में. हमें लगता है ऐसा कि हमारे सर्कमस्टांसेस इतने एडवर्स हैं, इसलिए हमारा सफरिंग और पेन इतना ज्यादा है. बट इट्स not the right assessment of your circumstance or situation. The pain you are going through is more of the result of your own understanding or thinking or your thoughts about that circumstance, your reaction to that circumstance or condition or situation. Right? And when I say about spiritual healing or God, it doesn't mean that you will not suffer or you will not have that pain in your life anymore. No, I do not mean that. A spiritual perspective, जो spiritual perspective है life का, a spiritual perspective doesn't deny you your pain or suffering, but in fact, it gives you strength to endure that suffering, to endure that pain. It gives you strength to overcome that circumstances or situation or that pain. It gives you that strength to bear that. Right? The wisest question or the wise question, or then an important question in our life while going through the pain, or when we are in the midst of our circumstances, adverse situations, or that midst in the when we are in the midst of our painful experience or our suffering. The question, the important question is not that how can I immediately overcome it, how can I overcome this painful situation or suffering. This is not the right question to ask. The wisest question is, whenever you are in the midst of your suffering or your pain or in any kind of adverse situation, ask yourself, what is the meaning of this pain? What is it revealing to me? Right? What does this pain want me to understand? ये क्वेश्चन होना चाहिए खुद से. ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि कैसे जल्दी से मैं इसको ओवरकम कर लूं. राइट? नहीं, ये वो गलत क्वेश्चन है, वो पर्सपेक्टिव ही गलत है लाइफ के लिए. पेन हमेशा रहेगा, सफरिंग हमेशा रहेगी, आप उससे भाग नहीं सकते. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट राम, लॉर्ड राम, और कृष्णा, लॉर्ड कृष्णा, और शिवा, लॉर्ड शिवा, और बुद्धा, लॉर्ड बुद्धा. Lord Buddha's journey to enlightenment actually began when he saw suffering for the first time in life. Right? But the point is not कि Lord Buddha saw suffering. The point is he overcame that through his enlightenment, through his actions. The painful experience or the suffering process is actually half of the equation of human life. You name it, you talk about any god or any person, and when we observe their life, when we read about them, when we think about them, we find actually उनकी लाइफ में भी बहुत सफरिंग था. राम और कृष्णा, दे बिकेम लॉर्ड only due to their actions, the actions they took while dealing with their sufferings, their painful experiences. So आप उन्हें भगवान मानिए या मत मानिए, बट एटलीस्ट वी कैन बिलीव सो. हमसे पहले पूर्वज थे हमारे, कृष्णा राम हमारे पूर्वज थे. सो सफरिंग जब उनकी लाइफ में आई, उन्होंने क्या किया, कैसे एक्ट किया, दैट इज द वे टू लिव. राइट? द suffering that you are having right now, the experience that you are having right now, is not going to determine your future. But the way you deal with that suffering, the way you go about that suffering, the way you pass or overcome that suffering will determine your future. Right? Think about that. If I talk about our scriptures, epics, Granth, right? You must have heard that, or you would have heard that there is a word known as Sat-Chit-Anand. I'm talking about Hinduism, right? अगर आप किसी दूसरे धर्म से बिलोंग करते हैं, इट्स फाइन, बट एटलीस्ट सत-चित आनंद आपने सुना होगा. What does it actually mean? I won't be going in much technical detail of this word, but in the one of the simplest language I can say that Sat means truth, right? Chit means our consciousness, conscience. Anand means bliss. बहुत डिटेल में नहीं जाके सोचना है, बट एटलीस्ट सिर्फ इतना तो बेसिक लेवल पर हम समझ सकते हैं. सत चित आनंद, truth, can science place? Now, सच्चित आनंद किस चीज को कहा गया है? In our scriptures, if I talk about Hinduism, Sanatan Dharma, what does it refer to? When we talk about Brahma or Brahm Shakti or Padmatma, or even when we talk about Atma, हम कहते हैं इनका बेसिक नेचर क्या है? सत-चित आनंद है. The very basic nature of our soul, our Atma, is सत-चित आनंद. इसको बिल्कुल बेसिक लेम लैंग्वेज में भी समझेंगे तो you can understand, you can find, you can realize the basic true nature of our being, of our Atma, our soul is full of happiness, joy, peace, and love. Our suffering in our life only begins when we are separated from our own true nature. In our life, actual suffering begins only when we are separated from our own being, our true nature of Sat-Chit Anand. जब हम प्यार से दूर हो जाते हैं, जब हम खुद से दूर हो जाते हैं, जब हम भगवान से दूर हो जाते हैं, right? When we are getting separated from love, when we are getting separated from God, from Lord, from universe, from the Almighty, when we are getting separated from our own being, our own soul, our own true self, then our suffering starts. Think about it. If you are very much connected to God, if you are very much connected to your own self, if you are very much connected to the true nature of our being, I'm not saying then you will not have suffering, you will not have to be a pain in your life. No. But if you are connected to God, if you are connected to the universe, if you are connected to yourself, if you are connected to that true nature of your soul, you will have that strength. You will have that strength to overcome that suffering. And again, I'll repeat that point, that it doesn't matter what kind of pain you are going through right now, what kind of suffering, or in which kind of circumstances or adverse situation you are right now. The point is that how you go through this suffering, how you pass through or grow through this suffering is actually the only thing that matters. Think about it. So how can we overcome this? If I want to apply this spiritual healing process in my life, how can I begin? What is the first or second thing or 2-3 steps that I need to take? I'll talk about that. Just now I mentioned the true nature of our being, that is Sat-Chit-Anand. So let's begin with it. Try to connect with yourself. For that, do anything that you have to. Just you have to make sure that you are able to connect with yourself. You can try meditation. You can try reading. You can try offering prayer. Prayer. Just simply prayer. You will be able to connect to yourself. The point is, God is never far away. He's never far away from us. We just have to seek His guidance. We just have to feel Him. We just have to ask Him for His help. Right? God is here in the midst of our suffering. It's just us. हम ही दूर हो गए हैं, वो हमेशा से हैं. सिर्फ हमें अपना हाथ आगे बढ़ाना है. And He'll be there to support you, to guide you. to help you grow through your suffering. You can do one more thing. In this process of spiritual healing, you can do one more thing: forgiveness. Forgive yourself. First and foremost, forgive yourself for any or all the mistakes that you have done, consciously or unconsciously. Forgive yourself. सिर्फ ऊपर से दिखावे के लिए नहीं, फॉर्मेलिटी के लिए नहीं, दिल से forgive yourself for anything. कुछ भी किया हो, just forgive yourself. Then the second step, forgive others who have wronged you, who might have harmed you, hurt you. Forgive them. I know some of you might ask that how can I forgive someone who just tried to kill me or my parents? Let's say we talk about terrorists. Okay, I'm not saying if you have caught any terrorist, just let him free. No, I don't mean that. I'm just talking about you and your inner peace. In your heart, don't hold grudges or negative sentiments of either regret or vengeance or revenge to that particular person or thing like that. Be at peace with yourself. Forgive them. The point you can think of that आपको सही गलत का अंदाजा है, बट उस बंदे को सही गलत का अंदाजा ही नहीं है. अगेन आई एम नॉट सेइंग उसे छोड़ दो, उसे पनिश मत करो. जो कोर्ट कर रहा है, जो ज़रूरी है लो मेंटेन करने के लिए, सोसाइटी के लिए, वो ज़रूरी है, वो करो. बट इन योर माइंड, इन योर हार्ट, डोंट होल्ड सो मच नेगेटिव इमोशन, बिकॉज वो सामने वाले को कुछ नहीं कर रहा है. इट इज अल्टीमेटली ओनली हार्मिंग यू. All these negative emotions are only robbing you of your energy, right? So हमें ये नहीं करना है. Just forgive yourself, forgive others. You will find peace, right? Next thing you can do is accepting. Accept life as it is. Accept the current circumstance or situation as it is, right? Do not resist. Do not resist anything. Do not resist that suffering or pain. Just accept it by your heart and try to surrender all of your pain and suffering to the higher power, to you. That is to God, to universe, anything, जो भी आप बिलीव करते हैं. Surrender your pain, your suffering, your circumstances to that supreme power. Completely, totally surrender. छोड़ दीजिए. एक्सेप्ट कर लीजिए, छोड़ दीजिए. फॉरगिव कर दीजिए खुद को भी, दूसरों को भी, राइट? एंड ट्राई टू कनेक्ट विद योर ओन ट्रू नेचर. ट्राई टू कनेक्ट विद गॉड, टू द लॉर्ड, एंड ऑलवेज रिमेंबर द लाइफ ऑफ लॉर्ड राम, लॉर्ड कृष्णा, लॉर्ड बुद्धा, महावीर जैन, लॉर्ड शिवा, राइट? ऑलवेज रिमेंबर द लाइन्स. सिर्फ उन्हें पूजना नहीं है, उनका जो एक्चुअल एक्शन था, उनकी जो फिलोसफी थी, think about that. Then you will realize that suffering is only one part of the equation of human life. Second part क्या है? How you go or grow or pass through that suffering, right? Think about it. Try to understand. Try to think beyond self. Try to think beyond the current circumstances, current painful experience, or the suffering. Try to think beyond that. Try to connect with yourself. Try to connect with the God. Like if I talk about a prayer, every single moment of prayer, every single moment of surrendering to the Lord, Every single act of kindness, every single act of love, every single decision of forgiveness is taking you on this journey of spiritual healing. Is taking you closer to yourself and to the Lord. Is helping you grow as a person. Right? If I say, like, the life lived in any manner other than love will take you or will lead to painful experience, then I think I'm not wrong. When we get separated from love, when we get separated from our true nature, when we get separated from Lord, then our suffering starts. Don't do that. Just be connected to yourself, be connected to the true nature of our soul, that is Sat-Chit-Anand. Be connected to Lord, offer prayers, be compassionate, be kind, accept life as it is, forgive others, forgive yourself, right? And just be love. Be full of love, full of compassion. Again, I'm saying this spiritual healing process or this spiritual healing doesn't mean that you won't be having suffering or pain in your life anymore. No, you will have to be at that pain, but this type of thing, this type of way of living will give you strength to overcome that, to grow more stronger, or to go past through that storm, that suffering, that pain, right? That's the only meaning of this beautiful life. So that was it from my side in this today's episode. Hope to see you soon in next episode. Till then, think about this spiritual healing process. If you know someone who is in dire need of this type of thinking, do share it with them, right? Help them. Let's be the change. Let's grow together. Let's help each other, right? So see you soon in next episode of this beautiful initiative, Being the Change. If you have any suggestion, please share it with me. And if you want any particular topic or theme on which I need to talk about, do tell me, right? I'll consider that. So thank you. See you soon in the next episode of Being the Change. Thank you once again.